Hi everyone! And if you're watching this the day it was uploaded, happy Halloween. So I really wanted to do some sort of like Halloween themed book video, but the more I thought about it, I realized that I really have not read enough spooky books or Halloween themed books to be able to do like a tag or a spooky books recommendation video or something like that. So instead, we're going to be doing something completely different and talking a little bit about books that I read when I was younger. So for those of you that don't know, October is my birthday month, and I tend to get a little bit reflective around this time of year because of that. So I thought that we would do a video talking about some of the books that I read and absolutely loved when I was younger. Obviously I don't read these books now, but like part of me also just doesn't want to, because I feel like if I read them now I'm just going to not enjoy them as much because they just hold such a place in my heart when I was younger. Oh, and a quick disclaimer before we dive in, I will probably be saying the word remember way too much in this video. So if I was better at editing, I would have a little like counter, but I'm not that good at editing yet, so you've been warned. So the first series that I want to talk about is the Boxcar Children series by Gertrude Chandler Warner. I am sorry if I pronounced that name wrong. I feel like there's a lot of author names that I mispronounce. This series is about 4 kids who one day their parents die in a car crash and they have to live on their own now. They are orphans, so they choose to live in a boxcar because they have heard, because their only living family, who's their grandpa, they've heard really bad things about, so they don't want to live with him. So they live in a boxcar and just kind of like lean on each other and learn to have a life, a normal life, at least as normal as they can have it. And they also solve a lot of mysteries along the way. It's a multiple book series. There's like, I think over 140 books at this point. The main author actually only wrote the first 18 because she died, and then like other authors have continued the series after that. So for some reason when I was a little kid, I guess the thought of 4 siblings just kind of leaning on each other was really, really great and really appealing to me. And honestly, I think it really kicked off my my love for sibling bonds in books, which I feel like we don't see as much in YA, but it's really, really great to see it in this series. I also come from a big family, so I have 4 siblings, so to see this big family kind of all leaning on each other and like really caring about each other and loving each other so much was really great to see, especially being so young and reading these. I remember I used to absolutely love that the oldest one, Henry, was just so willing to get a job and build a pool because he had to support his family, but also wanted his family or siblings to have some fun because, again, they're all siblings, but they, they're just like normal kids and they want to have fun too. I remember the oldest one, Henry, he's 14. Like, that's crazy. Like, looking back on it, like, that seems so old to me, but now it just seems like, wow, 14, like, he was so young. And then lastly, I actually have a book of the Boxcar Children in Braille because I can read Braille. It's the Guide Dog Mystery one. I have only read like 1 chapter of it, but I do plan on reading more at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it. The next book series that I want to talk about is Junie B Jones by Barbara Park. This series follows a girl named Junie B Jones, and whenever she is in elementary school, so kindergarten to 1st grade, and it really just follows her mischief and her adventures that she's had in elementary school. This series, my mother used to think that this series was such a bad influence on me, and honestly it might have been. Junie B Jones is not the most well-behaved child. I remember that I primarily read this series when I was also around Junie B Jones' age, so that probably did not help too much, but I never did anything to the extent that like she does in the series. I also remember being really upset when the author died in 2013. I just remember that. I think that was like one of the first like public deaths that I remember, and remember getting like really upset over. The next series that I want to talk about is the Magic Tree House series by Mary Pope Osborne. These books follow 2 siblings named Jack and Annie who discover a magic tree house in their backyard, and this tree house has the ability to transport them to anywhere and anywhen in the world. So they can go back in time, they can go into the future, or sometimes they can even just go in the present. This series is so great. It's so educational for anyone who wants to learn more about like historic events or just historic people. It's a really, really great series. I used to read this series all the time whenever I was like 8 because I remember reading it with my mother, and for some reason I would always reenact the scene whenever they go to the world. So specifically the line "absolutely still," I had such a long pause between "absolutely" and "still," and I would like stand really still and like wait until, and then I would just like stand really still and then say the line still. And I don't really know why I did this, but it was just my way of like being interactive with the series. And my mother always let me read that line because of course that was like, the line that I absolutely loved. I also will say that I did read these books a little bit past elementary school, then ultimately stopped because, I just got too old for them. But I did read them past elementary school, mostly for the nostalgia, but also because, again, they are just like so educational. The next series I want to talk about is the Rainbow Magic series. This is by Daisy Meadows and a bunch of other authors too, because there's so many books in this series. This series follows two best friends named Rachel and Christy, and together they are friends with fairies. And there's a fairy for like every different type. So there's like the 7 colors of the rainbow, because at the time the book was written, there were still 7 colors in the rainbow. They have like weather fairies and all that fun stuff. And the series are always categorized in 7s. This series, I just remember absolutely loving. Like, I was obsessed with all types of fairy related media, and specifically this series because of course there were fairies involved in it. This is another series that I was like so attached to. Like, I did not want to leave this series even after I like obviously had aged out of it. So I actually kept Lucy the Diamond Fairy one because it had my name. I think I still have it. It's somewhere in my room at home, I believe. I really loved this series. There's not really much more to say on that. The last book I want to talk about today is Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. This book follows a pig named Wilbur who becomes friends with a spider named Charlotte, and essentially the entire book just focuses on their friendship and the joys that come from life, and it also follows the journey of being born all the way to death. This is such a great coming of age story and such a great novel that still to this day I feel like I want to reread, but I'm worried to reread it because I'm worried that I might not like it if I reread it, or at least not like it as much. And I just want to preserve like the memory of absolutely loving this book when I was younger. We used to have a really old battered copy of it and I would reread it so many times over. And then we actually don't have that copy anymore. We lost it. Like, I don't know what happened to it. So I was at a used bookstore around my college a couple of weeks ago, and I saw it on the shelf, and it was in really, really great condition, and it was really cheap. And I was like, I just have to get it. So I actually have it right now. I'll show it, but it will look a little bit funny because the camera is like facing backwards. So it'll be upside down, or it'll be opposite, but I will show the book. This is the book. And I just absolutely love it. I have it in my possession. And again, I'm not sure if I'll ever reread it, but I'm so happy to have it with me and to have a physical copy again. I also know that when the movies were coming out, and now that I think there's 2 movies out now, there might be more. I used to never want to watch the movies because I did not want it to ruin the vision that I had of the book. And I still to this day have not seen the movies because I'm worried it's going to ruin my vision, even though I've heard that they're actually like pretty good. At least one of them is pretty good. But I still don't think I could watch the movies, and I don't think I could reread this book because it just meant so much to me whenever I was younger. So those are all the books that I wanted to talk about today. If you have any favorite books that you read as a child, please let me know. I would love to have conversations with you about that. I feel like books that we read as kids are just so, so important. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you later. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.